Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to the lion voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here, hear me now. Yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
Well, from to us a son was born and a child was given.
I want to ask you a question. Have you got your book? Haile Selassie's Ethiopia Volume 1, The Rise of the Priest Warrior King. I've read the book in its entirety, and I must say it's very inspirational, very informative, and very historical, right?
Them call him Rastafari. When he was born, rain fall from the sky. Them call him Rastafari. When he was grown in airplanes he fly. They call him Rastafari. The lion break the chain, beat not, don't cry. Them call him Rastafari. Read the Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. Then born near the city of Harar, the inspiration for Bob Marley's guitar. People crowd him like some big superstar. It no matter if England
started. But I want to talk about three specific areas of preparation. So we hear about the grand coronation, massive event. All of these representatives from around the world, you know, historically we talk about 72 nations. I have not been able to do the exact research. I've never seen the 72 specific nations listed out that were in attendance. However, that's the number that, you know, we typically block within the tribe. But however, what is clear is that all of the major powers had their representation there. So you know, within those major powers were several colonies and different things. So anyway you look at it, it was a global statement, globally recognized affair. But first, number one, I want to talk about some of the work that Nego Tafari was doing prior, leading up to the coronation. One was the procurement of armaments, you know. He had been trying to negotiate for Ethiopia to have the ability to import arms. And what had been happening in Ethiopia up until this time is that, you know, the different races might have deals with different people. Arms are coming in all about the place, through all sides and all tribes. Harar was one of the key importation center for arms. So this is why Harar was such an important asset during the time of Johannes, why he sent Menelik down there to subdue Harar, because they wanted to make sure they control that stream of modern weapons. So in August of 1930, Ethiopia concluded the arms treaty with Britain and France. Italy was also a part of that, to, you know, for the importation of arms, setting forth how much, you know, they were, you know, His Majesty was trying to push that limit. There was talk, and all of these details are in Haile Selassie first formative years, you know, trying to push it to 400 and, you know, over 400,000 pounds in armaments, which at the time, you know, would be millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars in today's currency, which at the time represented about 12% of the trade that Ethiopia had. So, you know, there was argument, how come he's trying to use so much of the money to import arms? Ethiopia was responding, you know, we need them to be able to arm our military, our police, to, you know, making sure that they can respond to rebellion, foreign invasion, so forth. Of course, Italy was opposing Ethiopia getting these things because they had their designs. It's later revealed by Mussolini that they had been plotting since their defeat at Adwa. However, they had to capitulate and allow a certain amount to be brought into the country. And in that same year, before the arms treaty, His Majesty had brought in some Belgian officers to train the imperial bodyguard. His Majesty had brought in some Belgian officers to train the imperial bodyguard and the police, so starting to formalize um, the capability, starting to formalize the capability, the defense capability. So this is just one aspect of detail that His Majesty has to keep in his mind while leading up to the coronation. Number two is the ecclesiastical, the church at the time. The church of Ethiopia was subservient to the church in Alexandria, the See of St. Mark. So they had to get an archbishop from Egypt. Oftentimes didn't speak the local language. They would be responsible for the ordination and the consecration of the bishops as well as all of the affairs. What His Majesty did leading up to the coronation is and as Negus is that he had a young group of Ethiopian priests that he was supporting. He sent them to Cairo to help to appoint to bring forward an archbishop who would later become Archbishop Krilios, who was there for the coronation. But they selected someone who was not a powerful figure in the church, so someone that would have to rely on them for ecclesiastical strengthening, because His Majesty was looking forward for the day when Ethiopia would be able to appoint their own archbishop. They wanted that sovereignty in terms of ecclesiastical, because over the hundreds of years, of course, Ethiopia has its own characteristic from the Coptic Church in Cairo. So His Majesty did that. And what he did is that the Ethiopia would be solely responsible for the economic and executive powers within the church. So all of the practical things, the archbishop would only be dealing with the ordination and the consecration, the ceremonial, ecclesiastical aspects, but the actual functioning of the church is His Majesty made it so the Ethiopian spiritual ones would be the one to deal with the financial and executive functioning of the church. 1930, the Archbishop from Cairo actually made a visit to Ethiopia for the first time, very historic, because of course now that His Majesty is doing all of these reforms, they want to come and see who is this and what is he doing in the country. Massive things happening. So His Majesty wouldn't engineer the full separation of the church till a much later period. But again, before the coronation, these were the early chess moves that he was making. And this is consistent with His Majesty. The moves that he's making may not bear fruit for years, maybe even decades after. And we have to look at it like that, because if we look at our elders who said legalize the herb, enough of them never lived to see the day that the herb legalized, where I and I as youths are seeing that happening around the world, not because of Rastafari going into Congress and doing this and that, but the peoples of the world rising up, the sound. So I and I have been on the right side of history consistently, and likewise His Majesty. So again, we're continuing in that same frequency, that same energy. The number three area, which I find very fascinating, is the economic building of Zion, because this is the part that our generation has to pay close attention to. This is the part where our elders, they said, take your bag of money, give I Rastafari love, that was a chant. Now we want the bag of money and we want the Rastafari love. You understand? Because we need the bag of money to build the health center. We need a bag of money to build the this, the that, all of those things. So we want both of them now. We want the bag of money. But that chant, though, I'm being funny, but that chant is really saying, you can take your bribes, and people talk about the bag right now, the young people, get to the bag. So even that, the chant is from the 60s, 50s, 60s, take your bag of money. And you see even now the bag is the biggest thing. So the elders had that foresight in their sound in terms of what they were talking about. But now, as youths, we understand the importance of money and finance. And in the building of Zion, His Majesty, being a wealthy man or being a man of the upper class, was able to use his own personal finance to build and to strengthen the government. And this was a great example, is that he used his personal funds. By this time, at the time of the coronation, the Ethiopian currency was the Merit Teresa, which was pegged to the price of silver. It was a silver coin, basically. So when the price of silver went up, people would come and get as much currency and ship it out the country because it's silver. And then, the worth would be, and then at a time when the price of silver dropped, then it becomes very expensive to import goods. So His Majesty wanted to stop that. So the bank was in shambles. They had the building that was there. It was run by the Bank of Cairo. But there was no money in the government coffers by that time. This is also, the Great Depression is happening in the US. This is a global economic downturn. So 1930 was a dreadful time, similar to what we're seeing today, to be honest. But it was a dreadful time globally in terms of the global financial system. So what His Majesty did is use this to his advantage. He took his personal funds and bought the Bank of Abyssinia, and then when he bought it, he didn't call it the Bank of TAFARI or the Bank of TAFARI. He nationalized it and made it the Bank of Ethiopia. So he took his own personal funds and gave it to the state. So the people who talk about Haile Selassie I and corruption, this is why we don't take them serious, because they don't do no research. They don't understand the heights of what Haile Selassie I gave to the state. These are from his legitimate businesses. Remember, he's inheriting estates and different things from Rastafari, who was inheriting things from his mother, who was inheriting things from Prince Haile. This is nobility, So they have money in the family, passed down generational wealth that we talk about. They have that generational wealth. He's taking that generational wealth and putting it into the state. Personal money. He withdraw the money from the Bank of New York, he had money in the Bank of New York. He actually closed his account at the National City Bank of New York in July of 1930, taking out 125,000 pounds, which was about $320,000, and he sent it to the Bank of Egypt in partial payments, with the final payment being received July 1st, 1931, and the Bank of Ethiopia officially opening on October 12, 1931. But in 1930, as I said, the bank was empty. It was a holding, for the Bank of Egypt, and the cost of that was 190,000 pounds, including 40,000 pounds for canceling Menelek's concession, because there was a contract agreement, so His Majesty had to buy Ethiopia out of that agreement, and then and that was an agreement that was signed in 1905, and then there was 25,000 pounds for the building and the equipment, so he had to purchase all of that, again taking his personal funds to do that. So all of these things are happening in the context of the coronation.
She's like the flowers in my garden, and her heart has never hardened, and she give me loving in the morning. Babylon, you are go far without no warning. Black woman, I said I wanna be your lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could be my children's mother. But no struggle, so we both could help each other, and then I wanna be your lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could be my children's have everybody see. Spent a little time out in captivity. Babylon, their plan was to destroy the family. Still I want you to bring a child for me. Maybe in the spring when birds are sing lovely, maybe we could plan to have a summer baby. I can be the man that you depend on. Put the pen to the paper, made a love song. Babylon, they separated us for so long, and the reason that they hated us was so wrong. Still the most High, he created us, we so strong. Then same Kushite and the Dogon. Love your melanin, no follow fi them program. Black woman, me nah go pass on you fi no one. No, no one, that's my slogan. Black woman, I said I wanna be your lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could be my children's mother. But no struggle, so people could help each other. Then I wanna be your lover, and I don't want any other. You alone, I could be my children's mother. But no struggle, so people could help each other. She's like the oxygen in my flame. Loving where we have nobody can contain. Love so powerful, survive shackle and chain. Love it cross the ocean way before planes. Love survive them torture, rape and dear pain. When one escape, then the other get blame. That's why I never put no one above you.